We are more than 2 months into the Trump administration, and yet we still have not seen the text of the One Big Beautiful Bill. There was a report from Axios that House Republicans are considering increasing the corporate tax rate in order to pay for it. I want to be clear, this is a non-starter. Any proposal that asks to increase the corporate tax rate should be rejected by any and all Republicans. It is better to have those individual tax provisions of the TCJA expire than increase the corporate tax rate, and here's why. Corporate tax revenue is up 158% since 2017, and that's because the TCJA in 2017 brought down the corporate tax rate from the globally anomalous 35% of a top marginal rate to a flat 21%. That's the European average. In fact, we should want to bring down the corporate tax rate because that is how you re-onshore American business, American manufacturing, and the GDP growth. That is a rising tide that lifts all boats.
Tiana, this is confusing to me for a number of reasons. The first of which is it kind of sounds exactly like what Joe Biden was talking about with his economic plan, which we do know did not resonate with voters at all. But you mentioned the sort of like pro-growth aspect of this, or excuse me, the negative impact this could have on a pro-growth mindset that Donald Trump is trying to trick the country into believing. But like, why are they doing this now? Is it they're worried about not having all of the tax cuts paid for elsewhere? Is it just they think that this is something that could earn them some cachet on the left? Like, what's really driving this?
I believe in part it's the pay-fors. Another part it's because Donald Trump has not shown as much leadership as I think a lot of us would have hoped on this landmark legislation that will not be just undone when it's his legislation legacy, right? And then the third part would also be, I'm assuming, the influence of J.D. Vance and Peter Navarro, right?
Yeah.
So the way the tax cut was done in 2017 was that corporate tax rate was made permanent, and intentionally, as a pay-for, you had the individual provisions expire because everyone understood that the individual tax cuts are politically very popular, whereas the corporate tax rate you have to explain in a lot of economic jargon, and we're catering to a country that it does not speak the language of pro-growth and a rising tide lifting all boats. The pay-fors now, so you already have the $4 trillion price tag over the course of a decade of just salvaging the expiring tax rates. And to be clear, it would be very devastating if we did let those provisions expire. It would be a tax hike on 62% of Americans, and there is a small business tax rate that's pegged to individual taxes for companies that don't have the means to fully incorporate small businesses,
right,
where it's giving them a lower tax rate as well. So it would harm business if we don't do it. But that 21% corporate tax rate is, in the long run, something that's continued to help abate inflation. What they want to do is, Donald Trump on the campaign trail says, no tax on tips. Okay, not great, but you could argue it helps people. It helps have incentive for people to work more hours, which is always good for the economy. That costs about $500 billion over the course of a decade. Then no tax on Social Security income, which is $1.5 trillion. These are massive amounts of pay-fors, and especially when they're saying we're going to increase the SALT deduction cap, we might have an auto interest loan deduction. None of this makes sense, and especially the Social Security one, when you consider Social Security is already supposed to hit insolvency in 2033. That means an automatic across-the-board benefit cut of 24% for all Social Security benefits. This no tax on Social Security would not only speed up that point of insolvency to about 2032 at least, it could also increase the amount that benefits get cut.
That makes sense, and to be honest, that is one of the biggest losing political issues for the Trump administration right now, this sort of black hole of how do we address Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid. Yeah. It was supposed to be addressed on day one when Donald Trump promised to sign this reauthorization into effect, and I do think the onus is going to eventually fall on congressional Republicans, not just the White House, to sort of get their ship in order, or again, just lose all of this goodwill that they had built up after the November election. Unfortunately, we don't have a text of a bill to actually analyze yet, but we'll be paying close attention and we'll bring it to you as soon as we get one.